Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Monday, October 9th, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. What are we looking at here? Well, I'll focus back out a little bit. You can see in the whole world, we're focusing on one spot, and this is this little red flag. It's called Megiddo National Park. I'm going to talk just for a minute about Bible prophecy. And not just Bible prophecy, there's other scripture and other text and ancient manuscripts. There's the Dead Sea Scrolls and so on. Now, some of you guys are believers. I mean, in my audience is probably about maybe, I don't know, I'm just going to have to guess. I'm going to guess about 25% of my audience is believers in Bible prophecy. Probably 75% of my audience isn't. But if you're a believer, if you're not a believer, this whole thing is starting to get kind of biblical as far as war is concerned. You know, and it's your personal preference whether you're a believer or not. You know, in this, but I'm very familiar with this subject matter. One of my subjects of interest has been for many years, going back, I don't know, 30, 40 years, is ancient text and ancient manuscripts. I was very interested in it about 10, 15 years ago when a whole library of books I went through, buying specialized books on these subject matters of the gods of ancient times, you know? And it was kind of a layered research also. It kind of overlapped my research into ufology as well. And so I'm quite well versed in this subject matter, but this doesn't mean you personally have to believe any of these things. But if you do, well, I'm going to be talking about this just a little bit this morning before I get into the markets. So it's up to you if you want to listen or not. But anyway, looking at this and why I put this in the whole world, in the context of the whole world, is this area right here, Megiddo. If we focus in on it, we can see it's right smack dab in the middle of Israel. Pretty much central. Just north of Jerusalem. This is what they named something called Armageddon, was named after Megiddo. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the term Armageddon or not, but it refers to the great final war in the end times, what's referred to as the end times in scriptural prophecy. What did I have here? Oh, now here is a gentleman who is saying that he was in the Yom Kippur War. And what he's saying about this war is, he says there's a very, very bad failure here. He says, which the Yom Kippur War was small compared to this failure. And he says, I was a soldier, he says, in the Yom Kippur War. This man right here. And they're showing a picture of what's happening over there right now in Israel. Now, taking a look at this scripture, we're talking about scripture just for a minute in the ancient texts. An awful lot of the predictions and the events that are unfolding were predicted thousands of years ago. And one of the end times predictions was this right here at 1 Thessalonians 5:3 in the Bible. It talks about, it says, while the people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come upon them suddenly as labor pangs upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. This was an end times prediction from the Bible in 1 Thessalonians. I found it interesting. One of the things I found interesting here. Now, I'm not saying that this is a fulfillment of this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I watch what's happening, and of course I was aware of this particular First Thessalonians. I was aware of this 30 years ago. I knew about this, and so I've been watching for it, kind of, more or less, because I'm very, very interested in fulfillment of ancient prophecy, and I act as an observer of, are these things really happening or not? Well, I found it interesting that this right here, the United Nations here, we've got, and this was just before what's happened right now. It said Israel is on the cusp of a historic peace with Saudi Arabia, Netanyahu announced at the United Nations. Now, this happened just before what's happening right now. Could this, question mark, be interpreted as a call of peace? These peace deals that were going on just before. It says genuine peace with the Palestinians, a visionary corridor, a new Middle East. So they were working on peace deals. Peace just before this happened. And now, suddenly there's war. Come out of nowhere. Seemingly come out of nowhere. Of course, it's probably being planned for a long time. But we didn't know about those plans. Now, what about Iran in all of this? Sadly to say, they've been worried for a long time about Iran developing nuclear weapons. Well, Iran's been enriching uranium for a very long period of time here. And this article was produced about 3 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's called Iran Watch, tracking Iran's unconventional weapons capabilities. Iran's nuclear timetable, the potential. And this is their estimate from this site. It's a website published by the Wisconsin Project on Nuclear Arms Control. And they're talking about the timetable of how soon Iran could enrich enough uranium to fuel a small nuclear arsenal. It assumes Iran would try to build an arsenal of 5 warheads of the implosion type, the goal Iran set for itself when it began to work on nuclear weapons decades ago, with thousands of gas centrifuges, some operating, some in storage. Iran can enrich uranium to grades suitable for nuclear reactor fuel or to a higher grade suitable to nuclear weapons. On January 5, 2020, Iran announced that it would no longer observe any limit, such as set by the Nuclear Accord of 2015, on the use of its centrifuges or on the possession of uranium they enrich. Since then, Iran has expanded its stockpiles of enriched uranium, increased the enrichment level of that stockpile, and brought more advanced centrifuges into operation. And if we look here, they give a timetable. And now this was about 3 weeks ago. And they said in 1 week, Iran could have 1 weapon. In 1 to 2 weeks, they could have 4 weapons. And this was about 3 weeks ago. They said this, and in 2 to 3 weeks from then, which would be about now, 5 weapons. But what good's a weapon unless you can deliver it to the enemy? Well, Iran's got that covered. Let's take a look here. Iran. Now this was 25th of May. So we've had June, July, August, September. We've had like 4 months ago. Iran unveils a new missile called the KHOR. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that because I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry, but I don't know how to pronounce it. It's the number 4 of this type of ballistic missile. And there it is, sitting there on the pad. It says the Iranian military unveiled what it presented as a new, more accurate variant of the, can't pronounce it, most powerful ballistic missile on 25th of May. It is called the, can't pronounce it, 4, because I can't pronounce that word. I mean, when you get two R's together, I mean, how do you even pronounce that? I don't know how. I'm sorry. The missile was displayed in an event attended by Defense Minister Amar Mohammed Riz, I can't pronounce his last name, sorry, and shown as being launched from a missile testing facility in Semnan province in video and images. The Iranian media reported that the new variant has more advanced engine that uses hypergolic fuel, giving it a range of 2,000 kilometers. That's over 1,000 miles. Well in excess of 1,000 miles. And it can carry a 1,500 kilogram warhead. Unlike other types of fuel, oxidizer combines in a new propellant that can be kept in tanks for years, shortening the preparation time for launch to 12 minutes. It only takes them 12 minutes to launch this thing. The new propellant also requires a smaller tank. This missile can also evade. It's got evasion systems built into it. And it's well within the range of almost anywhere in Europe. I imagine 1,200 kilometers. Well, let's take a look at the map here. If we take a look, I mean, Iran is sitting right here, over here, and they're centrally located. I mean, over 1,200 miles, you can encompass Israel, but I mean, it could also reach all the way up. It could even reach places probably like Ukraine, or Russia, or even the western part of China, probably. I mean, it could reach anywhere in this circle here, an enormous 1,200 mile circle. So it's a long distance rocket. This is a long distance. That's a long way, 1,200 miles. And it's probably hypersonic because most rockets are. They go up into space, they become hypersonic, and then they come down at tremendous speed. I mean, this is, well, you guys know, rockets are very dangerous that way. So, getting back to what we're talking about here. How many nuclear warheads does Israel have? Well, it's right on here. It says 90. They have 90 nuclear weapons. Now, I don't know what their capability of ballistic capability is, but I imagine they also have the ballistic capability of reaching Iran. So we got a dangerous situation here, indeed. An awful lot more dangerous than a lot of people realize, because a lot of people just pass all this off and say, oh, there's always been a war over there. No, not like this. This situation, I'll call it a situation, could grow into something where other nations start to get involved. And this is already happening. They're sending an aircraft carrier, the United States, into this region right now. It's on its way. A whole flotilla, actually, that travels with the aircraft carrier. Destroyers and such. And they're rushing it into this area as fast as they can to show support for Israel. At the same time, we see other countries that are on the side of Iran. And basically, it comes right down to the exact same situation where we see these two divisions in the world, the BRICS and NATO. This whole thing is the nations, whether you've noticed it or not, have been taking sides in a much greater, more expanded war. But this could act as a trigger mechanism. So it's a very dangerous time we live in right now, needless to say. And if you do believe in Bible prophecy, one of the things that I have noticed is it's uncanny how some of these things have been starting to actually unfold in the present day that were written thousands of years ago. That's one of the things that I've observed and taken into observation. Okay, let's move on. We're going to take a look at the markets today. Let's see if we can get the silver price. Yeah, it's at 21.77. It's up 18 cents on the day so far. It looks like it's into a very slight rising trend, but it's like I told you guys, honestly. I told you guys there's a solid floor underneath silver. And they know better. The market manipulators that manipulate the price of silver and gold know better than to take it below mining, take the spot price below mining production cost. So when you buy silver, you're buying something that has a solid floor under it because they need it for industry. The whole system would break apart. Without silver, they can't even make their bombs. They can't make any electronics. So it's a no-go to go without silver. They can't. They have to have it. Have to have it. 100% have to have it. And the only way they're going to have it is if the miners mine it. And the only way the miners are going to mine it is if they can make a profit. And so that's what it all comes down to. Now, let me be very clear about this. If there's a war in the Middle East, fuel costs associated with producing silver are probably going to double. And silver is energy. It's all about energy. Getting this stuff out of the ground. And modern silver production, modern mining, is all about energy costs. So if the price of fuel doubles, the price of that floor under silver will have to double. Have to. So if that floor right now is, say, let's just say for argument's sake, it's $20, and that's why it goes down to, like, they're leaving them a small when they take into account the premium as well. They're leaving them a small profit margin there because let's just say it's $20 right now. Fuel price goes up. That floor goes up to $40. Now I'm not saying that we couldn't have some sort of a massive run into silver in troubled times where people want real value for their money that could drive the price a lot higher, but I'm just talking bare minimum here. Silver's probably going to have to go to around $50 pretty soon. Otherwise, the miners ain't going to mine. It's as simple as that. If they're going to lose money mining, they're not going to mine. So take that into consideration. Because is your dollars in the bank going to double in their value? They're still going to be worth $1. But the silver you buy with those dollars is very likely going to have to double in price because of the price of fuel costs going up if there's a war in the Middle East. And there is a war in the Middle East. But I'm just saying, if this war were to spread out and grow, the effect it'll have, because it could very well cut off the supply of oil coming through the strait, where they bring 20% of the world's oil through the strait. You say, oh, the world can do without 20%. What's a 20% cut going to... Well, the world... This is what you have to understand about oil. Oil is that there's a very set supply each day that the world uses of oil. It's just like your money you get every month. You have a certain amount of money that just covers your bills. If you got less money that coming in than covers your bills, you're going to go behind. You're going to be in trouble. If you've got more, you've got a surplus. Well, that's the way with oil. There's a set amount that the world uses each day. And if suddenly 20% of that's gone, that means 20% of the people on Earth are going to have to do without. It means they're not going to be able to drive to work because they don't have oil in their car. And of course they're going to allocate, if there's a shortage like that, of course they're going to allocate to what they consider to be absolutely necessary, things that are absolutely necessary. Just like they did during COVID. They shut everything down except things that were absolutely necessary, like the grocery stores and stuff like that. They'll do exactly the same thing. They'll allocate the oil for the trucking industry and things that are absolutely necessary. And who's going to fall short on that 20%? You are. And don't think they can't do it, because back during World War II, they rationed oil. And guess how much you got? 3 gallons a week. Now just think to yourself right now, if they do that again, could you get by on 3 gallons a week? What does your car get? 15 miles to the gallon? Maybe 20 miles to the gallon? That's 60 miles a week. Now just think of how much driving you do, and think if you could actually get by on just driving 60 miles, no more than 60 miles a week. Say you got to take your somebody to the hospital or whatever, it's 20 miles away and 20 miles back. Well, you've used your whole week's supply of oil or gas, and they ain't going to give you any more, so you're going to be on foot. Might be a good time to think about, and before they put those restrictions in, and they will do that, before, there might be weeks or months of just going by the pump and seeing a big long line of people there trying to get oil at double the price. Think $12 a gallon. And there's a line up a mile long trying to get it. And by the time you get to the pump to get your share, the guy says, sorry, tank's empty now. We got to wait for the next truck. It'll be 3 more days before it comes. And I got to wait in this line again in the heat? This is the kind of world we might be heading into if this war expands outwards in the Middle East and cuts off the oil supply. This, boy, oh boy, just to think, what kind of world we could have had without these greedy world leaders, and the kind of world that we have, and how much worse it's getting by the day because of their ambitions. And it all boils down to one hormone: testosterone. And in fact, probably more than 90% of the decisions that are made in this world are made with a hormone running through the bloodstream of the people involved in making these decisions that is testosterone based. Because I'm going to tell you, do not underestimate the power of hormones on people's well, just take a look at the changes that happen to a person during puberty. Anybody is bringing up kids, and they know that before puberty and after puberty, what's the change in how they act and how they respond to things. Those are the effects of hormones. And also, our species is I can't put it any other way than just to say hot-headed. And this is, again, the effects of hormones, and one particular hormone. But, in the primitive conditions, this hormone is very much needed. Going back to caveman days, without it, we wouldn't have survived. We would have never been able to run fast enough. We would have never had enough ambition. The dinosaurs would have ate every last one of us if it wasn't for that hormone. But now here in this modern world, a high-tech world with nuclear weapons, maybe it's not such a good thing. Just saying. At any rate, I don't know how I got off on that tear. But thank you guys for listening through it. Anyway, taking a look at cryptocurrency today. It ain't doing so good. Bitcoin price is dropping today. 27,479 for Bitcoin, 1,582 for Ethereum. XRP is at 49.9 cents. Taking a look at the Dow today, it's up 12 points. I really call this a Teflon market. But once the Teflon wears off, and that's what's been happening, just like a frying pan, you know, once the Teflon has been slowly wearing off, and at a certain point, everything is going to start to stick. Good news will become good news again, and bad news will become bad news again at that point. And it might be uncontrollable how this market goes down at a certain point. But then if we get a hyperinflation, the market will reverse. And 40,000 would not be... I could see 40,000, I could see 50,000 Dow during a hyperinflationary scenario. But what can you purchase with those dollars? You know? Taking a look now at crude oil is at 86.30. It's up $3.51 on the day so far. Bonds, we're looking at rising yields still. 10 years at 4.79. It's up 7.9 basis points. And the U.S. 30 years at 4.96, and it's up 7.3 basis points on the day. And finishing off with the dollar index at 106.33. And it is going along sideways today. It was up earlier. Thank you guys for listening to my show. If you know people out there and that put them on to my show, tell them about my show, get them to subscribe, because I need to start growing again, you know, a little bit. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate my audience out there. You guys have a great afternoon, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.